we're not going to ask anyone tough questions, so it's fine to occupy the front tables. But we do have questions. We do want to keep it interactive. So you can occupy this particular 2 tables, look a bit empty if you'd like to come and sit in front. Particularly those of you in the back row. Open invitation. Show your courage. We have questions. So now if I can invite Ratika, Vasantha, Deepali, Nataraj and Garima on stage, please. Yes. So before we start, show of hands, how many of you are in marketing? Oh, wow. How many in tech or IT? Yes. How many in finance? A favorite function? One brave soul. The rest of you can confess. It's okay. Okay, one brave soul. Okay. Great. So we have an idea of the kind of questions or things that you might be interested in. Before we get started, I would like my team to introduce themselves, along with one surprise question, which I trust they're not prepared for, which is, do they like data or hate data? Vasant, you're in the hot seat. Introduction, who you are, and whether you like data or hate data.
Mobile is on, but it's on silent mode. That must be Deepali. I absolutely love data. In fact, I have a friend of mine across at our stall there called Watson. He's the god of data, and those of you who haven't paid a respect to him, you must go and check him out. He does amazing things with data. So data is our god, data is our religion. In fact, I think we can spend the next 5 hours talking about data. I'm Vasant. I work for IBM, and I have a privilege of leading the marketing and communications team for IBM in India, South Asia.
Hi, I'm Garima. I head marketing for India and Middle East for Wipro. I hate data. Seriously, I hate data. So for me, it's more about emotions. It's more about customer connect. It's more about relationship. It's more about customer being as a person. So if I have to choose, I would say I hate data.
Thanks, Garima, for showing that you're a non-conformist in this audience to say that, and that too sitting next to Watson's best friend. So my name is Jessie Paul. I run a company called Paul Writer. We look to be a one-stop shop for marketers in terms of thought leadership, peer networking, and so on. Before starting this 5 years ago, I was with the IT industry for around 13 years, so Wipro, Infosys, and iGate, and all in marketing functions. And I can say with a totally straight face that I hate data as well. It always crops up at very inconvenient moments. It's just when you're presenting that, everything has been awesome, that this nasty piece of data comes to contradict you. So that's why I hate data.
Good evening, everyone. First of all, sorry we started a little late, but that was not because of us. It was because of the previous panel discussion. Hope we can keep you engaged as well for the next 1 hour or so. My name is Ratika. I look after marketing for Metro Cash and Carry. It's a B2B wholesale retailer in India. We've been around for 11 years. We are a global company, a very large global company with a presence across almost 28 countries. So that should answer the question, how important data is for us. It is absolutely, absolutely essential. It is what drives our business day in and day out, because we don't have a choice, because we are a customer-facing organization. So it's absolutely imperative for us, and any initiative that helps us get closer to the customer's mind through the data analytics or research is what motivates people like me every day in the morning when we come to office.
Hi, my name is Deepali Naair. I work with Mahindra Holidays and Resorts, and I look after marketing over there. And I love data. I also love the fact that I get it and there are many in the organization who do not. So you have an edge. And I love that fact.
I am Nataraj. I do dual role. One is the global CIO as well as the head of infrastructure business unit. So definitely my life revolves around the data, so being an information officer. So I love data, but at the same time, I think to be honest, I wanted to be as live as wanted to be, because in this hall, I didn't see many of the technologies, so that whatever the technology that I speak, I hope will not be understood. So I can play around with whatever the jargons, technical jargons. But however, the jokes apart, I love data.
Great. So how many of you have a marketing plan? Or your organization has a marketing plan? Show of hands. And we're not taking photographs, don't worry. And you don't have to worry if you work in IBM, you can tell the truth. Yes, okay. And how many of you have a tech roadmap for marketing? Yes, sure. Like a written down tech plan just for marketing. Repeat the second question. Second question is, how many of you have a tech plan for your marketing strategy? A tech roadmap. Okay, much smaller. And how many of you think that next year you're planning to have like a tech blueprint for your marketing organization? And those of you who are in tech, it could be that you create one for them, of course. Okay, very few. Okay, so at the end of this panel, we're really hoping to convert you towards thinking of tech as a driver and not just an enabler. And you know, before we get started, we also thought we'd check, are there any specific questions that you would like us to answer during the course of the discussion? Any expectations that you want to set? Yes?
So, generally, like, technology is an ever-changing field, actually. However, if we really look, marketing has remained constant over the years. So how do you merge these two? You're talking about technical marketing, and we are talking about marketing technology. The tools in marketing have actually remained same. In fact, like, I have worked in the organization, PepsiCo and Metro Cash and Carry used to be one of our customers, actually. So I know that the tools have not changed, but technology changes quite fast and like more into our business. So I want to really understand, how do you marry these two actually?
Any other questions? Yes, in front. So we're just taking questions now, so not going to answer them immediately.
With a lot of technology getting into marketing, will the off-print media be a threat for the whole of marketing today? I'm sorry? Will the off-print media, which is not really digital, what's the threat to that industry? Yeah. Because it's shrinking,
I can answer that right now, yes.
Okay.
Short and simple answer. Yeah, any other questions that you want us to take up? Nope. Yes? No? Okay. So let's start with the first one, which is, you know, marketing has pretty much stayed the same over the years, but technology has changed a lot. I would say the strategy or the techniques of marketing have stayed the same, but how you actually apply it and how you do it has changed quite a bit. And, you know, since this question did come up, I thought, you know, maybe we can start with both Vasantha and Deepali, who actually like this kind of a thought, saying that the Internet of Things is actually becoming a reality. How is that going to actually impact marketing?
This is me. Yeah, thanks, Jessie. I'll answer this question actually in two parts. Firstly, I'd just like to offer a point of view directly to the question the gentleman asked about technology has changed, but the science of marketing really hasn't changed. In the last, I would say, 3 to 4 years, we're actually seeing a fundamental change actually in the way people are making purchase decisions, and that's actually forcing the whole science of marketing to undergo a fairly radical change. And I'll just spend a minute sort of explaining that. For many of us, and that's including me, who've learned marketing through business school, we were all sort of taught this classic IDA model, or the classic funnel of creating awareness and interest and desire and action. And someone raised the whole question of offline media. And a lot of the awareness creation was investing a lot in advertising and hoping that the advertising would create an emotional connect, draw the person to the store, and there you would have a lot of point of sale, which will further sort of push towards action. What we are seeing today, with the rise of digital, people are adopting a very different mode to what we call actually discovering products and services. And that's actually getting accentuated with the rise of mobile and social. So the whole discovery process has moved from external sort of attention-building awareness to you yourself typing in information into your Google window and then discovering sources on your own. And that source could be a company website, it could be a blog written by somebody, it could be a product review, it could be a YouTube video. So there's a whole discovery process. And then as you go through the whole process of actually finding out more, there is an entire process by which you actually interact with information on very, very different devices. And therefore, we are seeing actually a very different model of marketing actually being played out. And there are many companies which are building brands today using this process. And I'm not even getting into something like the product recommendation engine that an Amazon tries out. So you've bought this, you may be interested in this, and so on and so forth. So there is a lot of fundamental change that is happening in the way marketeers are approaching the business of marketing. And a lot of that has got to do with how consumers are consuming technology. Yes, there is technology available for all of us to use in marketing, but the change has also been brought about because how you and me are consuming technology in our daily lives. And coming to the point about Internet of Things, I think that is only going to sort of put that on steroids. Because I think what Internet of Things is going to do is really give an extra sort of dimension to how we connect with products and services. Instead of having, and I think this was discussed eloquently in the morning session, when both, Vanitha talked about it and Martin Peters talked about it, instead of having 2 or 3 devices, you're soon going to have a 4th device and a 5th device. And I know there are people in this room who already have, a Fitbit wearable. And I'm sure when the Apple Watch gets launched, people are going to, have that. And all these devices are again going to be, connectors. They're going to be sources of data, which is one of the reasons why I love data. And the whole business of search, and you can just imagine the potential, right? Because if you're looking at search, then you have further devices where information can get streamed into. So the whole sort of Internet of Things, and I'm not even getting into the big sort of iconic, the connected car or the sort of automated monitoring, angles that the Internet of Things gives you and makes our life, so much better and, makes the world work so much better. I'm not even getting into those areas. Even the simple business of how we search for information is going to undergo a serious change. So this whole business, whichever way you look at it, is actually changing rapidly in the interest of the customer and how marketers are going to add value.
Jessie, I want to add to that.
One second. Deepali, I want to also shift your question a little bit based on what Vasant said, which is, the customer has changed, the way they consume data has changed. Is it possible for marketing to actually react to this without the organization also changing?
Okay, so I will answer that also about the organization shifting. But just to give you an example, and what used to happen, and I've been in marketing for 21 years, first 10 years, clearly, you followed the Kotler model and you said, there are various segments, choose one segment, position your brand to one segment, and find an insight which, or find an insight which is common across segments and, market on that insight. Now that fundamentally, the principle remains the same. Segment, insight, position, market to that segment, right? But what is possible today with technology is that you can have 35 segments and you don't need to choose one. Technology has made it possible for us to do micro-segmentation and to market them continuously on multiple insights. Now, the reason why this is not appreciated very well everywhere is that for a long time, globally and in India, FMCG marketers have ruled the roost in terms of advertising and marketing spends. They continue to do a single segment marketing even now. They continue to do one segment, one insight, position, and market to these segments. The service industry has moved on, and therefore you will find also CMOs who are far more interested in technology and data coming from service industry, be it financial services, be it telecom, or be it hospitality industry where I belong. So I think that's a fundamental shift that I'm saying. FMCG marketers, according to me, continue to use even the technology and the internet and the digital media much like a broadcast, one-to-many media. And that, I think, will somewhere in appreciation happen, in future, or it may not, depending on, what the nature of the business is. So I see a huge difference between technology application by the marketing teams, depending on the category that they are. The second thing in terms of whether you can do it without organizational change, I don't think so. I think if your customer is changing, sometimes the internal processes get impacted completely. And what I have realized, in fact, the greatest difficulty when you have a huge tech rollout and new technology processes need to be adopted, the biggest issue is that most people who were used to doing things in the offline methodology want the technology processes also to replicate that. So instead of a human being, computer does something, but that's not the correct application of technology. You need to rethink processes. When we rethink services, when we rethink processes, is when the organizational change also has to happen. So in fact, if you look at the impact of CXOs, and Jessie, you and I spoke about it, a year back, that I, in my last organization, was also asked to lead customer service apart from marketing. And that is the kind of change that will happen because marketing will then look at micro-segmentation not just for marketing, but also servicing. And this change will possibly happen in the service industry faster than it will happen, anywhere else.
Yeah, sorry.
In fact, I can add to that. I think with the relevance of the Internet of Things and probably the context of the data, right? If we really see the number of devices today connected to the Internet, even in the 2009, has exceeded the number of human beings on the earth. Okay, and second thing, then the proliferation of devices. As he said, right? I think everyone has 3 and 4 devices. Number of basically the handheld devices or mobile devices has been sold much more than the desktops today. To that extent, the data, for example, the way the business process was run today only was targeting to the desktop because it was not more of a mobile, right? If you don't change the context of the knowledge management today, because if at all, I think if you have a 3 parameter, right? You want it to be, you said the customer centricity, user centricity, all of those things, right? But if you're having the systems which is not basically support 3 important things, which could be the speed, relevance, and reach of basically the marketing campaign, have no relevance data. So that means each of the technology function, I had both technology as well as the business function. What is important today is, one is from the technology context of it is not the way I wanted to run IT today, because earlier it's a question of, I think, how many servers and all you are typically managing. Today everything is available outside. The only thing is how intelligently you can interconnect and make some meaning out of it, which business users can understand. For example, each of the CIO office, I'm sure that very soon, I think we'll have a data scientist. In fact, we introduce a data scientist. Typically, he sits and understands with each of the business users what is his and her requirement in terms of the data, in terms of the overall, I think, the blueprint from the technology point of view. Then he basically devises the system which basically meaningful to us. So it is not today, I think the CIOs today talks about the uptime of the server or probably how big the data center is built, right? Today, CIOs talking about how data is available in terms of the mobility, in terms of the handheld devices. When basically any of the CMOs or sales personnel on move, can the data be live so that he can predict and possibly tell? For example, if someone is going to give a presentation and there is a delivery failure behind, right? You can't go say that we have a system which is far and basically backbone is very well connected, 100% uptime, because there would be already a failure. So while basically the sales guy or probably the guy on the move has to predict basically the data, the live sensors, whatever basically today you're talking about. What is the current context of the business? And is it if the data is live, so we can go and having a meaningful conversation with the customers.
So I'm going to, take off from where you said that, there's a focus a lot on the data and so on, and, go to Ratika, who actually talked a lot about the ROI of marketing, but also made the point that generally speaking, we look at technology as an efficiency driver, whereas the primary role of marketing is actually for growth. So I'm going to ask Ratika, I mean, you talked a little bit about how you're going to measure the ROI. Do you measure it in the context of growth or in the context of enhancing efficiency?
See, very simply put, what is the role of a marketer? The role of the marketer is to enable the company to achieve its sales growth or enhance its customer base or enhance the brand equity of the company. We, I think, as marketers, understand that. We know that. And every day when we go back to do our jobs, that is what is expected of us. Now let's link that technology team into this marketing function. When technology converts data into usable information, which we call insights, quantitative or qualitative, that is when efficiencies are created in our business processes. So I always urge all marketers to look at 3 very fundamental things for their business. Number 1, do you have digital readiness induction within your organizations? And when I say digital, I mean the entire gamut of technology. Everything from the technology platforms to SMAC to what have you out there. Number 2, are your technical fundamentals in place for every business process? And that's the time you actually go and seek internally or externally technology or software or applications that enable your business. Number 3, is your organization ready? So does it have the mindset? Does it have a culture? Does it have resources? Does it have budgets? So for us, technology is driving both things. It's driving efficiency, it's driving sales growth. I'll give you a very, very small example. When we do advertising above the line, print media, understood traditional media advertising cannot move away from that because that's a very large consumer base that is still sitting there. We need to see what is the marginal utility of every 1 rupee that we have spent on advertising. A software program developed within the system which tracks my spends, the reach, the frequency, and the impact helps me to determine the efficiency of that particular advertising campaign. That's efficiency for us. When it results in a sales growth over the weekend, that's enabling sales growth. So for us, it is both. And the one thing I could add to this is, we are so glad as marketers to have those solutions out there in the market. The question I was discussing with the panel was, there is too much to cherry pick from. There's a host of applications and software available. We just have to be smart enough to figure out what works for us as per our business processes.
So I'm going to go back to our original question where we asked how many of you were in tech, how many of you were in marketing. Quick question, how many of you have met your tech or marketing partner in the last 1 month? I mean, met as in not for coffee, but actually had a meeting? It's a very small percentage, huh? Okay, so my next question is to Garima. So do you think tech could be the next big thing for marketers?
I think this question is, I think in every panel it's been asked, and the answer is definitely yes, in my opinion. And I don't think so this is question anymore, because this is the hygiene this point in time. Tech is just not the tech. I think it's we should use a different terminology for tech.
Let me interrupt you here. When did you last meet your tech partner?
I would say 2 months back.
Okay.
Yeah. So I'm coming to that. So When I say tech, for me, it's more of convenience. So, nowadays, I'll just give you a very small example because in Wipro, we have very large user conference, which is happening next week, and it is happening in Europe. And, this is a 10th year of that particular event, and this has been happening from past 10 years. It's a very exhaustive kind of event, and a whole lot of activities used to happen over there. We kind of invite 200 customers over there, whole kind of ticketing, visa, whole lot of processes happens over there. So when we started this particular event, there used to be 15 people team working on this particular event internally apart from the event managers. So the kind of activities, the kind of phone calls, the kind of mailers, the kind of activities, I mean, people used to work 6 months before this event to make this happen, make this a success. Nowadays, in today's date, it's just 3 people plus 2 from the event management team is working on this. So, that's the pleasure, that's the magic of tech nowadays. Everything is there on the app. Customer is just requested to download this app, and everything is kind of done, right from visa, right from ticketing, to getting the information, how to reach there, what to do there, right from the agenda, from the panelists, everything is out there. This is just a small example. I'm just trying to explain that how convenient tech has made a marketer's life. Of course, it is taking away some bit of a job as well, I would say. But then it's all about convenience to marketers, convenience to the customer, convenience to the organization, and the end result is kind of met. So I would say tech is a hygiene this point in time.
Okay, now there was a question about whether, online will actually impact traditional. So I do want to answer that because in respect to the question being asked, and in my view, it depends whether you see traditional, and this includes not just media, but conferences, any format of marketing, as, is it a way to reach your customer? And then it doesn't really matter, because if you see yourself as in the business of connecting people or in the business of providing information, then it doesn't matter whether you do it through email or you do it through a printed paper. But if your business model is entirely that I must run a conference or I must run this piece of paper, then I think, there is a challenge involved. So anybody from the audience, from my panel wants to take that?
No, I just have a very short answer, which is that I think the print media is definitely going to get impacted, I think in years to come. Because that's where I see the least relevance, and I see a direct shift happening to digital, and you see that with the industry themselves also. Most print media houses are looking at, doing digital solutions themselves. In short, I just wanted to mention that.
And then there are areas of convergence. Today you have the whole concept of the connected TV. You have, the sort of pause and play TV. And then there is, which is sort of traditional TV versus what you find on Tata Sky and Dish TV, where you can record and play later. So there's all sort of convergence happening between offline and online. There are events like this where I know for a fact that there'll be tons of people sitting and tweeting this information. There are events where you would webcast the content. So there's a lot of media, intermedia multiplier play. So I think I'm not sure you should really worry too much about offline, online as such. These are just different media, and everyone will happily coexist and find their own sort of little niches.
In addition to that, I would draw as a print reference. Definitely, I think the print media, as she said, I think is going to be affected. But even now, because of the users are changing, right? The more of the Gen Y and Gen Z. For example, when the World Cup, the last year happened, right? So when the soccer, the Dimpies has basically come out with an ad, right? I think the free meal with basically the soccer. So something like that. It has created a 20 million to 50 million hits. But the whole campaign was done in 3 days, right? So it's a question of if the same thing has to be converted into the print media and has to reach to the people, it would take much more time. It's basically the time is in essence. If you really have to have a elasticity and some kind of agility, I think definitely this online is the way to go. And the way basically the technology is evolving today, and even the overall the devices people have been using. So it is a matter of a convenience to go and attach to the, I think, online media than the offline one.
So I'm going to now, sorry, but in the interest of time, I do want each of you to share an example of what you think is a great use of technology for marketing. Do any of you have multimedia other than you? Yeah. Anyone else? You? Okay. So fine. Yeah. Sure. Just give me 1 sec. You can queue it up. Don't start it till we tell you to start it. Yeah, sure. Go ahead.
I have to answer this. Print media, television, radio, billboards outdoors, digital, external social media, everything, all of it today are just touch points. I think the larger question for marketers is what money to spend on which channel, for what return, and for what ROI. I think there is nobody in this room that can determine the fate of any media, premature death or not, today, because I'll give you a very small example. The latest results that came out of ComScore and TAM, you will be surprised that these agencies have pitched YouTube in the same genre as the television channels, all right? Advertising spends this year, total advertising spends, 10% of everything that was spent in the market was spent on digital. So it's rapidly changing. The question is, will you keep your eye on the ball and stay in line with the times? Or would you wait for an impulse to happen into you for you to take that decision? So I don't agree that any media would die or would sort of go off the track, but yes, it is rapidly changing, and we just have to make sure that we stay ahead of the curve as marketers.
Garima, you want to add to that?
I just want to disagree.
Okay, Garima, you want to disagree?
Yes, kind of disagree.
2 disagreements. Excellent. Let's finish this and then move on to the next bit.
So, yeah. So, I mean, things are changing extremely rapidly, I would say, because...
Can't hear you.
Okay. I would say that it's faster than what we anticipated, because look at it. I remember 12 years in my marketing career. First 5 years, we just used to talk about print. It always used to be print. Nowadays, I would have hardly met any of the print magazines, the sales guys, or would have even considered them in the marketing plan. So things are rapidly changing than what we anticipated. So I would definitely agree with Deepika when she says that it is going to diminish I'm sorry, Deepali. So I would certainly say that it's going to diminish faster than what we anticipated.
Also, I think Ratika mentioned and said that these are all touch points. That is my point of disagreement. I think digital touch points are interactive, and to me, and we're already using it at Mahindra Holidays, the points of service. And that is the essential difference. The moment marketing folks are using a medium, and that becomes your touch point of service, you have to do a two-way street. So for example, we run a very strong social media team, and there are 3 points of usage that you have just on social media for us. One is just listening back to our own members and doing active servicing and getting back to them. And we respond to mentions on social media within the hour during business hours, within minutes also, but within the hour is the TAT that we kind of work with. We do engagement, we do messaging, we also do acquisition through social media, and we also run Facebook custom audiences where the messaging is meant only for our members, because we have 175,000 members. So there's a 4-point agenda, and it's not just a touch point for us. It is a methodology for them to get back. So my social media today is like the 1400 call center number for us, and that is how we use it as a channel. So that's a point of difference.
See, Deepali, you're absolutely right. But that's because your customer segment also has access to internet. Now you look at the entire geography of India. Look at the number of internet users and look at the number of mobile users. Mobile phones are growing more rapidly than internet penetration. Desktops are being phased out as we talk, and mobile applications are, garnering market share and growth. However, it all depends on the penetration and the usage of digital across the geography. I understand, for your market, digital media is fast access, real-time, on-demand information, interactive. But for other businesses, traditional businesses or bricks and mortar businesses, for example, retail, wholesale, it could be a very different diaspora. It's a bouquet. You choose from it. You choose from it depending on which customer you want to target, at what time, for what impact. We, in our business, are absolutely clear that digital is the way to go forward. But, however, being prudent that they will both coexist till such time, the data tells us otherwise.
See, to add to that, I agree with, it all depends upon, I think, which geography you are. And still we are talking about the cities where the internet is still basically being connected. Even now, as we are talking about, 3G is not available to the tier 2 cities of India, right? I think it has to, though we have moved on from where we were today, but definitely there's a lot of, improvements can be done. But however, adding to that, but there are, certain people who are basically using the technology, as you said, that they're digital. For example, Flipkart is the best example. The Biani Group having a lot of assets, which is typically in terms of the real assets, right, which was much more worth in terms of the balance sheet. But however, the valuation of the company is not as high as basically the Flipkart is. The only thing is the reach, which I said the three, right, the part of the marketing. One is the reach, relevance, and then speed, right? For example, the way the logistics is being done, even if I go to the one nook and corner of basically the place, right? All I need to have a mobile accessibility has, everywhere. The moment you stay, you can book anything and then you can get it in the tier 3 city of the, it's nothing but a virtual, your retail center in that particular city. So you need not to have the physical presence of it. So that's the power of digital media.
So let me give a,
Adding to that, even the banking financials, the way it has been, right? How many of goes to the bank earlier, right? Updating the passbook and so on, and right? The country, it is completely automated. Though it is still a statutory where people are carrying the passbook, but however, the relevance is almost diminished. So only it's a matter of time when most of the things, it will be just a few conditions, right? But there will have no relevance to it.
I actually have a very different view from all of you, and I'm a publisher as well. I think if you look at print as just a design outlet or whatever, there's a big future. 3D printing is coming up. The topic is about technology and marketing. I don't think any of us have actually used 3D printing for marketing yet, but that's going to be the next big thing. So if you can customize a mailer that is, a miniature of exactly the product that your cognitive analytics has said this person will buy, and you are able to use some fancy little drone to drop it off at their house, that's a whole new ball game for what we would call print advertising. So it all depends if you're looking at the classical jaded old formats, or are we going to use technology for something new? And on that note, I want to hand it over to Vasant and then the round on cool uses of tech for marketing as per you. And housekeeping note is also that if you'd like to ask a question and you want to send a piece of paper over to us, that's fine as well.
Cool uses of marketing. Okay, just hold on. So guys, I decided to take a risk with 4 lovely ladies on the panel. I said, let me talk about a cosmetics brand, which in my opinion, really does really good use of technology in marketing. It's really interesting because if you recall, when we started the panel, somewhere, I think it's Deepali, you mentioned about how FMCG brands are kind of lagging behind in the use of technology. It is true, but this I thought is a category, given the fact that yes, at the end of the day, high-end luxury cosmetics do appeal to a slightly more affluent audience. This is a category which I think sets the bar in the use of technology. The brand that I'm talking about is Sephora, and a little bit of an IBM plug here. It's Sephora. It's a little bit of an IBM plug. We actually work with this brand, so some of the technology that you see here is IBM technology in action. And given the fact that this is a relatively new brand, I think it came about in existence sometime in the mid-90s. So as a brand, it did not have the history of many brands of having legacy systems. They did 3 or 4 interesting things. The first thing that they did was to define their customer, and I really love this term called Gen Z. They said that we're going to appeal to women who are comfortable with using technology. So it wasn't, so I can very well imagine a lot of debates in our marketing teams about, is our customer comfortable with technology or not? They just defined, saying we're going to create the brand or centralize the experience around a customer who is comfortable with technology. Having done that, the entire user experience, whether it's about how people search for information, how they interact with the product in store, how people try out cosmetics. Again, I'm not going to get into that area for the fear of being thrown out of this panel, right? There is a hugely interesting use of technology. I'm going to play a video very soon, but where in that, for example, you will see how they use face scanners to tell people what is the right shade of, whether it's a lipstick, whether it's skin, foundation, etc., which matches as per their skin shade, skin tone, etc., etc. They use, for example, they have a very well-curated loyalty program called Beauty Insider, and how they use that program to do very real-time marketing to attract people. So, for example, if you're a member of that program and you're passing by one of their stores, you'll get a message on something that's happening in their stores. I must confess that I love shopping with my wife, and whenever we go on our holidays, right, I spend a lot of time at the Sephora store, so it's a brilliant experience. So it's really what I call a great example of technology enabling a very frictionless customer experience. So with that, I'm going to play a video which I hope will not disappoint what I've just built up.
In retail, you can't think about the mobile phone as a threat. You have to think about it as a magnet to draw that client into your store. I really can't believe how much of our traffic is now coming from mobile devices and how many of our clients are using search as the way that they really figure out which products they want to buy while they're standing in store. Sephora is a retail experience that popped up in the US about 16 years ago, and it was the first unbiased beauty experience that the US had ever seen. My role has evolved to be really focused on how we really talk to our clients in every channel that there is. Social media, mobile marketing, and in-store digital. When we thought about mobile, we really thought about utility first. What would be super helpful to have right in your hand? We really take cue for what are our clients doing organically. We realized that clients were looking on their mobile phones, searching for products before they came into store. So we found great success with Google's local inventory ads that really allows us to target our clients who are looking for specific products. They use Google to find that product and then will pop in just to grab that one item. But once they're there, now they're going to use their Sephora app to actually scan products to find the perfect product for them using ratings and reviews. They'll look up their past purchases to see what they bought last time so they can replenish it while they're there. Some retailers might be concerned about how people are using mobile phones for showrooming in their stores. We actually really welcome our clients to take out their phones in the store. A client that really knows exactly what she's buying, all the reviews, all her options, everything that she needs to know is actually a happier client and will come back and shop with you more often.
I mean, there's enough and more material if you just about how their marketing department works very closely with their in-store digital department and their IT department. So it's a great example. And I think the entire beauty industry, whether it's Sephora, whether it's Burberry, whether it's L'Oreal, really sets a bar when it comes to the whole sort of digital experience.
So Jessie, I want to mention, since you mentioned cool marketing, so I think those two parameters remain the same. Can you create customer delight? And second thing is, can you actually change consumer behavior and attitude? And if you manage to do that, I think that's cool marketing. So one example of customer delight, at Club Mahindra, within moments of you mentioning on Facebook or Twitter or some other social media that you're at our resort, and if you happen to mention stuff like it's your anniversary or your child's birthday when you're there, within minutes the message goes to our duty manager at the resort. And we create a magical moment for our customers in there. So we do many, many organized surprises, organized serendipity for our members, for them to get a surprise cake, for us to organize a surprise, romantic dinner at the balcony. And we create customer delight. And our customers are extremely happy with that, and they come back and tell us that.
So if you're in the audience and you're planning to go to Club Mahindra, you know what to tweet.
Yes.
They do not have proof of your date of birth.
Yes. Sorry? Please do. Okay. And I think as a customer, when I have changed behavior was when Uber entered Bombay. I, for years, was dependent on my driver to fetch me, from the airport, and I thought that was the fastest method, and, I would never want to get into the queue. And when Uber came, my driver no longer picks me up, and I'm spending money on a taxi. And I think that, to me, change of behavior and attitude, the whole thinking behind, how taxis are, has been completely changed by them, which is not just a function of their car and the product, it's a function of, the app and the use of the technology.
In fact, I would add two recent examples. For example, the way the Modi has used the electronic campaign, as overall the marketing campaign, I think, be it digital media, social media, was one of the, I think, yielded the best result, and that is really proven. Even, I think, even the Arun Kejriwal did the same thing, but that didn't last for something else. But however, the marketing campaign is very, very powerful and good, right? But other than the two, right, which is the old conventional one, which still I remember, Intel inside, now the mental outside. Because no one seems to be using the desktop so often. So I think probably the Intel Inside campaign is still being talked a lot.
So in my opinion, I would say it's amazing to see how the young entrepreneurs are able to start their businesses or start their startups so easily with the technology. It's just a mobile away nowadays. You get onto the Facebook, you do your ads, and I mean, it's so amazing when I have to buy a birthday dress for my daughter, and I get onto the Facebook just to chat up with my friends, and I see this entrepreneur talking about her dresses, and I speak to her, and the dress gets delivered in a week's time. So, it has become, the technology has made their life so easy, and it's so convenient, and they are able to think. Like tomorrow, if I want to start up something on my own, I mean, I really wouldn't have to think, or I really wouldn't have to invest so much. The technology would have made the entrepreneur's life so easy. So I would say this is one of the boon which a young entrepreneur or somebody who wants to start something or somebody who wants to sell their skills, it has become so much more convenient and the life is much more easy for them. So I think it's a great boon from technology.
I'd just like to say something very different. Basically, for all of us sitting here, we marketers are extremely digitally savvy. So all that needs to be done is for the technology teams in the companies to please support marketing functions to get closer to the customer. Because as you've heard from everything that we have said, the user journey, the customer experience, real-time data, on-demand information, interactive media usage, 24/7, 365 days a year, you are connected. So we all understand that as marketing people. And we all need the support of our technology teams to build technology platforms or solutions to enable us to reach out to our customer better. And that will come about when technology teams really understand the business processes and sit with cross-functional teams across companies and organizations to understand how can we do this better? How can we enable you better? The panel discussion started off with technology and marketing, and then we sort of moved into digital media and social media and customer interaction. And I do feel that somewhere it's all connected, because all of us know that world is real, where the customer is online. Deepali also said they create magical moments for their customers, literally at a tweet or a click or an upload. We understand that when our customer walks into our stores. The question is, how fast can we both ramp up the technology teams and the marketing teams? How fast? And that, I guess, is really the question we need to think about when we go out of this room.
So we're open for questions. I have my first question already with me, so you're going to have to wait. The first question was, customer buying a solution still follows the brick and mortar model for final negotiation. So do you see this changing due to use of technology?
Can I answer that? Because we do business out of a big blue box. Who's asked that question? All right. Let me read your question out to you again. It says, customer buying a solution still follows brick and mortar model for final negotiation. Do you see this changing due to use of technology? The answer is, the customer has already in some way made up or her mind before they enter your store, whether the store is online or offline. If your product is placed online, you're an online store. If your product is placed on a shelf, it's an offline store. The customer already has information, the browsing, the search, the comparison is happening all the time offline. And then the browsing, the search, and the comparison is also happening offline. So both the models are working for the customer. The customer is, if the customer is a deal hunter, he will go where he gets the best quality at the best price. Does that answer your question?
Although after doing all the comparisons, actually, which is where technology plays a key role, he generally gets into a final brick and mortar kind of model where he wants to negotiate with people actually in terms of deciding the final bid. Is technology having a role there? That's the question I have actually.
If the question was B2B, there are already models. Elance was amongst the first for tech development. Now there are, price discovery services, automated bidding, auction. You want to add?
A lot of cloud services, which are directly on the marketplace model. Whether it's infrastructure, whether it's platform, whether it's software. So, they get sold. But I think the key point, and I just want to, even in B2B, there's research which factually says that almost anywhere between 57 to 68% of the sales cycle is actually complete before a person gets in touch with a physical salesperson. And even after that, the sort of all the various other touch points play a very strong role. So therefore, the entire process, and this is the point that I was trying to make in the beginning about the whole customer journey and how that's getting impacted. So, yes, there are models, like I said, which offline you can complete the entire sales cycle. But even for complicated selling where you might want a face-to-face person to actually carry forward the final, whether it's more customization and to actually enhance the solution, there's a significant role that it plays. So,
we have the person with the mic. We have time for only one more question because I have one more written question as well.
Hi,
if you want the mic, you better put your hand up.
Hi, my name is Shais, and my question is for the panel. From a retail business, I would say from a micro retail business perspective, how digital media can help the micro retail business? Because we are talking about Metro or Mahindra holidays using digital media as a means of reaching customers, analyzing the data, I mean, you have team, you have financially equipped. But when you talk about the Indian micro retail sector, it's quite minute, not all that financially equipped. How digital media can help the micro retail business model?
I'm the only MSME here, so let me take a chance. Actually, content marketing is all about the content. It's about the insights you have. The money only helps you to amplify it, but if your content is really cool, your network will amplify it for you. So if you don't have money, invest time, and insight is my only solution.
But yeah, so that is the power of the digital media. For example, you don't need really big money, right? I think in today's world, I think with the less of the money also, your advertisement can be powerful. Because the reach has become very, very easy today, right? Unless earlier in the conventional way where you have to do it.
I have to disagree with you, reach has not become easier. The clutter's really gone up. So if you have like 100,000 followers, I can give you a bet that 2% of them actually looked at whatever it was you tweeted or sent out or whatever. So again,
I'll tell you, for example, how the reach has, because I have been many of the cases where I think even for the customer service, right? Where people have not been listening to the, I think, regular call, but the moment it has been put into the social media, it answered in 5 minutes, right? So that is the reach I'm talking about. Even the entire SpiceJet, basically advertisement is on the digital. You will never see, I think, any of the hoarding there, right? But entire, basically, on the marketing, the digital. So like that, many companies who are typically online and probably uses the digital, depending upon how savvy they are, right? And how basically the marketing position is today, right? But that is changing. I'm sure that I think from the India context, I think there's a lot to change. But however, in the West, it has already been changing digital. It's much more powerful and been heard a lot.
I just want to make a very simple, I don't know which business you're referring to, but there is an entire discipline almost, which is today, in fact, it's growing, but it's called growth hacking, which is, I mean, if you study a lot of Silicon Valley startups, and the big names today are the Airbnbs of the world and the Ubers of the world, which we referred to. The whole science behind growth hacking is how with very small budgets, extremely small budgets, but just by using creativity and the design of your business, you can get more and more clients in. So it works brilliantly for the kind of micro retail that you're talking about. It actually works brilliantly. Whether it's about using APIs on social media to reach more people, whether it's adding something at the bottom of your email with your clients, or telling people, you know what, it's a bit like on Dropbox. If you say, you know what, refer me 3 more people, and you get a little bit extra space. It's using things like that. So there's an amazing amount of stuff. I mean, if you just go and spend 2 hours, you'll come away with at least 100 ideas. Just remember growth hacking.
Even the way it spreads, I think, irrespective of the sector. For example, Rahul Gandhi having interview with Arnab, though I think I was not there in India at that time, but it's worldwide popular, right? I think I'm sure that most of you have seen it. If I think the social media was not in turn, right? I'm sure many would have missed that, basically the thing.
Okay, so the last question I'm taking up is digital and social media is. So it basically says that digital and social media are working really well for B2C. How is it being used for B2B marketing? Anyone wants to take that?
So I think there are, in fact, IBM, Vasantha is a great example of how a lot of the B2B work is happening on digital and social media. But apart from that, a lot of the thought leadership in the B2B space has now moved over, to the digital media and social media tremendously. But I think more important thing we must agree is that, digital and social is not just Facebook and not just Twitter and not just Pinterest or, not just these methodologies. To me, Google and internet and YouTube is social too. And in our industry, just look at the whole, TripAdvisor, Make My Trip, Yatra space, and there's a company called Travel Guru, and you must, look them up, because they have become the travel agents of travel agents, and we work very closely with them, and therefore I'm kind of privy to, this stuff. What is happening though is that as B2C consumers, we may not experience what is happening in the B2B space. Those cases are perhaps less written about also, and therefore this perception that, it is not working very well in the B2B space. The third thing we must keep in mind is that there is a lot of technology middleware, which is creating efficiency and growth in the B2B space. And we've just rolled out and won an award in the tech space, where we've developed an exclusive middleware which sits between us and the online travel agents, where earlier we would do complete manual updation of dynamic rates and our inventory, and now it happens in real time. And the control is with us because we can shut off any of the online travel agents whenever we want to. And that's the kind of work that's happening in that space. And to me, digital is equal to social is equal to internet is the way we kind of, look at it, because a lot of it is coming on the web, on cloud, and so on and so forth. And I think that is what we need to understand as marketers and technology people for us to realize, how processes can actually change.
If I can sum it up, I think, B2B and B2C are not so different. In B2B, you're just spending somebody else's money. That's the only difference, really. There are more buyers, but they're not spending their own money, but the research process, the passion, it's all the same. And I think what's happened with technology coming into marketing is that you can reach each person individually, and therefore there's no real distinction. So think of yourself as the buyer, and the solution should kind of occur to you, hopefully. So I really hope you've enjoyed this session. My panelists will be outside for a few minutes as well if you want to catch them for specific questions. Thank you all for joining us.